Welcome, I'm Dave, this is Zia, and we'd like to invite you to a really cool healing event. Healings actually happen. But before we talk about how this works, we want you to see this dog. I love this. Well, too often we are like this dog. And we cry out to God and He makes beauty out of our suffering. And that's good. The problem, of course, is that a lot of times our connection with God is limited to this. That's as good as it gets. Like the dog never gets to go out and play. And the difference is that we're not dogs. We're God's kids. If we feel stuck in an area, and if it's not just a desire that you want, it's something much deeper. It's something that you know you're supposed to do. And it's like God put a dream in your heart. And it's a core craving that you feel like it's part of the reason you're alive, but you can't seem to get to it. And if you don't get to it, it feels like soul crushing, like life has lost a lot of its meaning. And so one of the things we're trying to do is focus on these big heart's desire breakthroughs. So this is not just about removing the pain of the day. This is about backing up, zooming out, having a larger perspective and going, does God really want these dreams that God put in me? Whatever dreams God put in you, God can pull out of you. We call this outreach UncorkGenius because within each person is the wine of love, and Jesus is a genius at bringing it out. So one of the things that we like to specialize in is going after those big healings that we think we can't get to. And so we're going to do a seminar. We did one a year ago. We see a lot of testimonies happen, and you can read some of them listed in the YouTube video description from our website. These are the types of healings that only God can do, and I think those are a lot more exciting.
Yeah, it's highly rewarding to see that because you have the collective gravity of the crowd behind you.
Right, and this is not something that we take any responsibility for, and that's good. It's completely between you and God, and you can take advantage of the weight that's there as much as you want and participate as much as you want. So there's no pushing. We're not asking you to conform to anything we even believe. It's just responding to the deepest part of God inside of you and knowing that God loves you all the way at the center. What we'd like to do now is talk a little bit about this conference coming up and what you can expect and why it's really fun.
We do a lot of one-on-one sessions too. They are real satisfied after you kind of hose them off from the primary pain that they've walked out of and then wonder why they can't get to their destiny after that. And so we're here to talk about that and how, it's one thing to get rid of your pain. It's another thing to get into your promised land. The other idea is that people want to get healing and then move on. And without realizing that a lifestyle of healing is actually what brings about the promise. Because the world is broken, not just you. And you are a son or daughter of God that needs to get revealed into the world, as well as uncover the destiny of the world as you're doing it. So, nature is crying out for you to be revealed, but also nature is crying out for you to uncover God's purpose in the planet, in the world, in nature itself. And so those two things go together. The other thing that goes with that is our community, our involvement with the body, and how do we uncover the destiny of our community even as it's uncovering our destiny. And people like to break those things apart, but we're really kind of here to tell you that you can't really get your destiny without giving it to someone else. And you can't really be in the world without kind of unlocking God's purpose in nature. So those things we're going to really go deep into. We're also really big on generational healing, and people know what that means, but the way that we're going to address it is really by generation and what each generation is attacked with because of the gifts that they have.
A quick note that the dates on here are not birth dates, but the season of influence for that particular quality of God's love. And sometimes it's manifested in a healthy way and sometimes not.
One of the aspects we're going to really dig deep on is how Generation X is stuck and how that's affecting the culture and what you can do about it and what we can do about it together.
Yeah, and this is not about Generation X per se, but it's about the qualities of Generation X that colored everybody, not only who lived through that time period, but those who may have come afterwards who are still colored by some of these gifts and weaknesses.
Yeah, so why is Generation X frozen in some way or another? Why do they keep kind of hitting their heads on certain thresholds? Why are there common frustrations among that generation? And what are the gaps in culture that are left unfilled because Generation X can't or hasn't been able to fully be realized and come into promise? We actually believe that it's God's season to buzz forth in this particular generation, and that it will positively affect their wings, the boomers and the millennials.
Yeah, clearly the culture is in a transition right now. We're seeing one weather front clash with another weather front, and we're moving from Gen Y to Gen Z, and that's been happening in these transitional portals. Then there's a lot of opportunities for growth and a lot of healing that happens, and we're clearly seeing that now.
We really want to give you a framework of how you can strategically pray into each generation and kind of know the characteristics of what God's doing and how they affect one another.
Yeah, and we are similar to many other, we call them inner healing and deliverance ministries, in the sense that we like to go in and free those trapped areas. But it's much larger than that, and a place where a lot of ministries don't focus on is these larger systems. We call them macro systems, such as the generations that affect our ability, and sometimes we can't release the inner block.
Often you can't release the inner block until you release the outer block. In other words, the commonality of wounding between all the people of that particular generation or that particular block and how it affects culture.
So one of the things that Gen X specialized in, as you can see on this chart, is beauty and emotion and passion, enthusiasm, color, energy. For example, when rap music became dominant and exploded in popularity, the emphasis was primarily on the power of the bass and the drums. And the physical world often echoes more important energies happening in the spiritual world.
We have heard some from the Lord about how it works, and so it seems to work a lot like physical gravity or magnetism.
Yeah, the idea is spiritual gravity. In other words, the physical gravity is actually an echo of forces that are happening behind the curtain. And so what we like to do is recognize at a minimum, well, where are the forces of attraction, repulsion happening in my life in the spirit supernatural realm? And how can I surf them? And how can I increase my own weight? And that's one of the big things we're going to be talking about, is increasing the weight of intimacy with God so that things don't just flow well, but you actually attract your destiny and all kinds of other things.
Yeah, so this works between people, or in my relationship to a larger group of people, or in my relationship to my city, or in my relationship to even my state or my nation. And so those forces push and pull one another, and we can actually start to create a kingdom economy instead of just being thrown around with the forces that come down our block.
So you might be asking, is this type of thing for me? Everybody's invited to this. And we do get a lot of answers to prayers, but obviously we don't get everything we want. If we did, I'd be taller and better looking. There's more information on the website and lots of freebies online, but this is a special event we're doing. It's also simultaneously serving as a kickoff to our yearly healing mentoring program, and there's more about that on the website. We're going to be doing this every other week as a part of a curriculum. We have a community online. You can join the Facebook group. There's lots of other resources. So, go by the Spirit.
So come one time, see how it works, And if you really like it, you can keep coming.
Yeah. If you have any questions, let us know.
Thanks for listening.